Beneath the colossal, crystalline dome of the Galactic Council Chamber, light from 3 alien suns fractured into 1,000 accusing spears, illuminating the gathered representatives of 200 star-faring civilizations. In the vast amphitheater, towering Vorax warriors with scarred crimson hides sat beside ethereal Etherian energy beings who shimmered with ageless wisdom. Massive, shell-encased Krex elders ground their stone-like limbs, while insectoid Zek ambassadors buzzed in harmonic conference. And at the very center of this galactic tapestry of power, dwarfed by the monumental scale of everything around her, stood Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth, a solitary figure in a simple black suit. The air hummed with the silent collective judgment of millennia, a verdict passed not on arguments, but on place. Humanity, a species that had barely learned to whisper between the stars, dared to speak in a chamber built by giants. Like, subscribe, and share this epic story of galactic consequence. Comment below. Would humanity bow, or would they rewrite the rules? The presiding authority was not a being of flesh, but of coalesced consciousness. Speaker Valdris of the ancient Athetheran Collective, a life form older than human recorded history, pulsed with a soft blue light. His voice, when it came, was not a sound, but a vibration felt in the bone. The Council recognizes Commander Thrax of the Vorax Empire. A mountain of sinew and scar tissue rose. Commander Thrax stood 9 feet of contained violence, his forearms ending in black, chitinous claws that had torn hull plating. His crimson skin was a topographic map of conquest, each raised scar a saga of honor won in fire. The bony crest sweeping back from his skull denoted not just nobility, but a genetic lineage of unchallenged dominion. He did not speak, he issued a seismic event. Honored Council, his voice boomed, a rock slide in the sterile silence. The Vorax Empire brings a grievance against the creatures of Terra. He did not say humans. The word was a dismissal. They have laid claim, through flimsy digital petitions, to 17 resource-rich systems in the outer spiral fringe. Systems my people have safeguarded with our blood for 8 centuries. Systems we purified of raiders and cosmic parasites while these apes were discovering fire. A low agreeing murmur rippled through the assembly, the clicking of Krex mandibles, the harmonic buzz of the Zek. Sarah Chen felt the weight, not of fear, but of profound weariness. 12 years he had served in this chamber, smiling politely as condescending elders explained the realities of galactic politics. She had bitten back retorts when species who had known only peace lectured on the costs of war. She had mastered the art of swallowing pride like bitter medicine. But this was different. This was a direct challenge, framed not in law, but in blood. Thrax continued, his claws slicing the air. They hide behind their paperwork, their bureaucratic incantations. They speak of law, while ignoring the honor etched into those stars by Vorax dead. We do not trade in data files. We trade in sacrifice. And our claim is written in the atomized dust of our warriors. Chen stepped forward as the murmur swelled. The platform adjusted to her human height, a pathetic gesture that only emphasized her insignificance. May the Council grant me response. Valdris pulsed. The human delegation is recognized. She looked up, not at Thrax, but at the countless alien eyes. Compound, monocular, glowing, indifferent. The 17 systems in question were unclaimed territory, as defined by the Galactic Charter, Article 7. Earth followed every procedure with exacting precision. Exploration beacons, spectral mineral surveys, registry filings. Our claim is not based on ambition, but on protocol. The very protocol that maintains order in this chamber. Thrax's crests flared a dangerous violet. Protocol? The word was a curse. You speak of ink and light, while I speak of honor. What can your short, soft lives possibly understand of a legacy measured in centuries of vigilance? Your claim is an insult carved into the graves of my ancestors. The chamber temperature seemed to drop. Chen kept her voice level, a cool stream against a volcanic roar. We understand that laws, once agreed upon, must bind the mighty as well as the new. If the Vorax Empire wished sovereignty, the mechanism existed. For 800 years, it went unused. We arrived, we worked, we claimed. The law is clear. The law is for civilized beings who understand that some truths are older than words. Thrax thundered. He turned his massive frame fully toward her, a predator focusing on prey. The Vorax Empire issues its true law. You will withdraw your claims within 30 solar rotations. You will pay a blood tithe in rare minerals for the insult rendered. And you will publicly acknowledge the natural order. That junior species kneel before their betters. A shockwave of silence, then uproar. Ultimatums were primitive, uncouth, the behavior of barbarians from the galactic dark. But the outrage in the chamber was tinged with a fearful fascination. The Vorax were uncouth, but they were also undefeated. Speaker Valdris's light flickered, attempting to calm the storm. Commander, the Council urges arbitration. There are channels for this. Your channels are for the weak who negotiate what the strong simply take. Thrax spat. His burning gaze locked on Chen. 30 days, human. Tribute or tragedy. Every instinct honed over decades of diplomacy screamed at Chen to find a compromise, a face-saving delay. But she saw the faces of the 10,000 colonists already en route to those disputed systems. She saw the precedent. If Earth bowed to threat today, it would spend eternity on its knees. She drew a breath that felt like drawing a blade. Earth's position remains unchanged. We will not surrender legal rights to threat. The law is our shield. We will stand behind it. For a long moment, Thrax simply stared, as if trying to comprehend her defiance. Then a sound like grinding stones came from his throat. Contempt. Without another word, he turned and led his delegation from the chamber, their armored footsteps echoing a grim promise in the sudden, brittle quiet. The session dissolved into a chaos of worried, sidelong glances. As Chen gathered her datapads, Speaker Valdris drifted down, his light dimmed. Ambassador Chen, a word. The Vorax are passionate. Their warrior caste dominates their politics. Perhaps a symbolic concession, a shared mining venture, to avoid unpleasantness. Chen looked into the pulsating core of the ancient being. Speaker, with respect, a symbol of capitulation today becomes the blueprint for our subjugation tomorrow. We either stand on the law now, or we admit the law is only for those who lack claws. Elder Kais of the Krex lumbered over, his voice a tectonic rumble. Your courage is noted, little ones, but courage is a poor shield against plasma cannons. Their fleets have cracked worlds. Your history, it is of primitive bang sticks and chemical fires. This is not a conflict of wills. It is a mismatch of realities. Chen simply nodded. They would never understand. They saw humanity's violent past as a childish phase, not the forge that hardened its soul. We thank you for your concern, Elder, but Earth has faced long odds before. The pitying looks from the other delegates were harder to bear than Thrax's fury. They saw not resilience, but suicide. That night, in Earth's modest embassy, a sleek sliver of steel utterly dwarfed by the soaring organic spires of older powers, Chen composed her encrypted dispatch to the Security Council on Luna. Her recommendations were stark. Place all fringe colonies on maximum alert. Begin discreet mobilization of colonial defense forces. Prepare evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel. As she typed, she felt the ghost of those 847 future deaths she did not yet know, waiting in the darkness between the stars. Meanwhile, on the molten iron world of Vorax Prime, in a chamber lit by the glow of magma flows, Thrax knelt before the seventh throne of the War Council. The air reeked of ozone and blood-sanctified metal. The humans refuse the lesson, Thrax growled, his head bowed. They cling to their data streams as if words were armor. War leader Draxor, whose scars formed a near unbroken lattice over his body, leaned forward. Then they must be educated, clearly, but with precision. We are warriors, not butchers. A demonstration of consequence. Their largest fringe colony, New Geneva. Disable its orbital dock. Scorch its primary defense grid. Let them see their helplessness in the ashes of their hubris. The lesson must be clean. Thrax understood. A surgical strike. A warning written in fire, but not in slaughter. It was the Vorax way. Honorable, direct, intimidating. A standard week later, the Vorax 4th Battle Group, the Claw of Corax, emerged from warp space at the edge of the New Geneva system. The colony planet was a green and blue jewel, a testament to human terraforming. Its orbital space twinkled with traffic, freighters, comsats, a small defense platform. Aboard his flagship, Blood Oath, Thrax watched the peaceful world. He felt no hatred, only a stern sense of duty. Open channel to the colony governor. Broadcast our intent. Give them 1 hour to evacuate military and industrial zones. We strike with purpose, not with rage. On the surface, Governor Eris Martinez was jolted from a meeting on agricultural yields. The face that filled his screen was a nightmare of crimson and bone. People of New Geneva, Thrax's voice was chillingly calm. Your leaders have chosen defiance. We are here to correct that error. Evacuate your military installations. We will demonstrate the cost of pride in 1 hour. This is not a negotiation. Panic, ordered and controlled, seized the colony. Families were shepherded into underground shelters. Defense personnel scrambled to powerless stations. The single orbital defense platform powered up its pathetic lasers, knowing they were little more than a gesture. Precisely on the hour, the Claw of Corax spoke. Green plasma beams, beautiful and terrible, lanced down. The defense platform vanished in a silent, blossoming flower of light. The planetary shield generator complex followed, melting into a slag heap. A munitions depot on the northern continent erupted in a chain reaction of fire. The strikes were masterful, clinical, exactly as ordered. Then fate intervened. On the Blood Oath's targeting array, a single energy regulator, fatigued from a millennia of use, experienced a quantum flutter. a 1 in a billion misalignment. The plasma beam intended for the central communications hub, a squat, hardened structure, received a minuscule trajectory correction. Thrax was watching the tactical display when he saw it. The beam, meant for the comm hub, lanced instead into a complex of low, graceful buildings surrounded by gardens. The identification tag flickered on his screen: New Geneva Pediatric Hospital and Recreational Center. The world did not explode. It vaporized. One moment, a sanctuary for the sick and the young. The next, a glass-lined crater, steaming in the dawn light. The bridge of the Blood Oath went dead quiet. The targeting officer stared at his panel, his claws trembling. "Commander, systems indicate a catastrophic targeting aberration. The beam struck a life sanctuary, a youngling facility." Thrax's blood turned to ice in his veins. The Vorax code was absolute. Younglings were sacrosanct. The protection of the next generation was the highest honor, the core of their warrior ethos. To kill in battle was glory. To kill a youngling was eternal damnation. He stumbled to the comm. "Governor Martinez, this was an error, a machine failure. We offer immediate." The screen showed Martinez, his face ashen, his eyes hollow with a grief so profound it transcended species. He didn't speak. He simply looked at Thrax, and in that look was the end of worlds. The feed cut. The reports began trickling in, then flooding. Initial scans estimated 847 life signs extinguished, all under the age of maturity. The Vorax had not just broken human law. They had shattered a universal covenant. On Earth, in the bunker deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Marcus Rodriguez watched the sensor relay. He was a man who had fought in the brutal colonial secession wars, who remembered the taste of real war, not the clean, distant conflicts of galactic legend, but the mud, blood, and atrocity of humanity's own making. He watched the crater where a hospital once stood, and the cold, strategic part of his mind noted the perfect symbol. The emotional part, the part he kept locked in an iron vault, simply opened a file labeled Operation Memorial. He turned to his aide, Colonel Sarah Kim. "Silence protocol. Total communications blackout. Recall every ambassador, every attaché. No statements, no tears for the cameras. Let the galaxy see our silence. And bring me the files on Project Jericho." Kim's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, Jericho was shelved. Deemed a violation of the Council's non-proliferation." "The Council," Rodriguez interrupted, his voice softer than a razor's edge, "just watched a children's hospital get vaporized and is probably drafting a strongly worded memo. Bring me the files and activate the Ghost Fleet." For 50 years, humanity had played the part of the eager, peaceful newcomer. They had converted their shipyards to civilian use, published their military designs, submitted to inspections. The galaxy saw a species finally growing up, putting away its violent toys. They had seen only the stage, not the arsenal hidden beneath the floorboards. Project Jericho wasn't a weapon. It was a doctrine of total, cultural, and irreversible response. And the Ghost Fleet wasn't a fleet of warships. It was a fleet of tombstones, waiting for an inscription. As the Galactic Council fretted over reparations and accident investigations, human space went dark. And in that profound, terrifying silence, deep within asteroid belts and buried under lunar crusts, the arsenal of a species that never, ever forgot began to wake. The silence from human space was absolute, A vacuum more profound than the void between stars. For 3 standard days, the Galactic Council's comm channels hummed with anxious speculation, while Earth's embassy on the capital world became a sealed, silent tomb. No grief counselors appeared on human news feeds. No diplomats issued tearful condemnations. There were only the raw, unedited sensor images replayed across the galaxy. The green lance of plasma, the silent flash, the glassy scar where laughter had once been. The Vorax Empire, reeling from its own catastrophic error, flooded the diplomatic bands with formal apologies, offers of unlimited reparations, and the promise of a full public inquiry. Commander Thrax himself was stripped of command and placed under ceremonial arrest, a Vorax ritual of profound shame. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It waited for human anguish. It expected a flood of tears, a torrent of legalistic fury. It received, instead, silence. And silence in the calculus of predators is the most terrifying sound of all. On the 4th day, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked alone into the council chamber. She seemed smaller, diminished, as if some essential part of her had been left in that crater on New Geneva. The usual rustle of anticipation was absent. The chamber was a cathedral of held breath. "The government of Earth," she began, her voice not a shout, but a scrape of stone on stone, "acknowledges the Vorax Empire's statement of regret regarding the tragic incident at New Geneva." She paused, letting the sterile word "incident" hang in the air like a poison. "We acknowledge the deaths were unintentional." A wave of palpable relief washed through the assembly. Reason. They were going to be reasonable. Speaker Valdris pulsed with a warmer light. "The Council commends humanity's maturity. This tragic accident can now be laid to rest through due process and compensation." Chen's eyes, dark and depthless, scanned the room. "Earth hereby withdraws all territorial claims to the disputed 17 systems. We will sign any non-aggression pact the Vorax Empire proposes. We seek no further conflict." A murmur of approval. They were not just reasonable. They were wise. They understood their place, after all. "There is," Chen continued, almost as an afterthought, "one small condition, a request for dignity." She looked up, and for a fleeting second, her gaze locked with Thrax's, who watched from the Vorax gallery, his crests dulled to a mortified gray. "We wish to build a memorial for the children, something to help our species process this loss. We ask for 30 days of grace to complete it before the final treaties are signed." It was such a human request. So sentimental. So utterly predictable. Speaker Valdris agreed instantly. "Of course, Ambassador. Take whatever time your people need." Chen offered a slight, brittle nod and turned to leave. Not a single delegate noticed that she never specified what form this memorial would take. None of them, in their millennia of civilized conflict, could have conceived of the blueprint being activated at that very moment, deep within a place humans called the Pit. The Pit was not a location on any star chart. It was a gravitational anomaly in the Oort cloud of a forgotten star, a place where sensor beams bent and frayed. Here, the Ghost Fleet stirred. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez floated in the Zero-G command nexus at the heart of the Pit, surrounded by holographic schematics that would give a Vorax engineer nightmares. The ships taking shape in the hidden dry docks were not warships in the galactic sense. They were manifestations of a singular, cold philosophy. There was the Acheron class, its hull a fractal maze designed to scatter targeting sensors into madness. The Mnemosyne class, equipped not with plasma cannons, but with resonant frequency projectors tuned to shatter specific crystalline structures, like the sacred prayer stones of Vorax temple worlds. And the Silent Hand stealth frigates, engines powered by captured zero-point fluctuations. Leaving no energy signature, a Vorax scanner would recognize as propulsion. "Report," Rodriguez said, his voice the only sound in the Nexus. Colonel Kim's face appeared on a secondary pane. "Project Jericho, Phase 1. Infiltration. All deep cover assets are in position. Our teams use the reparations transport cover perfectly. They're inside the major Vorax logistical hubs, power grid nexuses, and cultural archive centers." Cultural. Rodriguez let the word sit. This was the core of Jericho. The Vorax were a culture of honor, of history, of deep ritualistic connection to specific places and artifacts. Their strength was also their psychic keystone. And Phase 2? The foundries are at 120% capacity. We're not building a navy, sir. We're building a taxonomy of ruin. The Thanatos platforms will be ready in 20 days. Rodriguez called up a file. It wasn't a military dossier, but an anthropological study titled Vorax Ontological Security, a study in symbolic annihilation. Humanity hadn't just been building hidden ships for 50 years. It had been studying its potential adversaries with a chilling, dissective focus. They knew which mountain on Vorax Prime held the fossils of their proto-sapient ancestors. They knew which melody, played on stone chimes, was sung at every warrior's coming of age. They knew the enemy's soul better than the enemy knew it themselves. "The Council believes we're building a statue," Rodriguez murmured, closing the file. "Good." While the galaxy's attention was fixed on the expected human drama of grief, the real response was unfolding in the shadows. It began not with explosions, but with erasures. On the Vorax holy world of Kartan, home to the archives of the first songs, stone tablets recording the earliest Vorax epics, considered the literal voice of their gods. High Keeper Vrax was conducting the evening resonance ceremony. The deep subharmonic chants vibrated through the sacred caverns, a sound felt in the marrow. Suddenly, the ancient sonic amplifiers embedded in the walls emitted a piercing, discordant shriek. Then silence. Not the silence of stillness, but the silence of void the amplifiers hadn't broken. The precise frequency of the resonance crystals inside them had been matched and shattered by a distant, focused energy pulse. The first songs were not destroyed, they were rendered mute. The stones remained, but their song, the soul of a people, was gone. It was a theft of history. Similar events, small and devastating, rippled across the Empire. The monument to the 1,000 wars on the planet Draxor, a mountain carved with the names of every battle, suffered a catastrophic rockslide that obliterated only the oldest, most foundational tiers of names. The genetic repository on Vex, containing the seed lines of sacred battle beasts bred over millennia, was contaminated by a synthetic virus that unscrambled their DNA into inert sludge. No lives were lost. Nothing of military value was touched. But with each event, a thread in the tapestry of Vorax identity was snipped. War leader Draxor, received the reports in his command citadel, his initial confusion curdling into a dawning ice-cold horror. His military advisors were baffled. No weapon signatures, war leader. No ship traces. The archives, the crystals just decohered. It is as if reality itself forgot how to sing for them. This is human work, Draxor growled, his claws scoring grooves in his command console. Impossible, his intelligence minister chirped. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow. We have full sensor coverage. There has been no incursion. Then they have technology we have not seen, Draxor said. The concept itself, a heresy. A younger species, surpassing the Vorax, it was an ontological impossibility. Yet the evidence was a series of impossible wounds. He demanded a secure channel with Ambassador Chen. Her face appeared, calm, composed. War Leader Draxor, have you come to discuss the memorial arrangements? Do not play games, human, he roared. The attacks on our sacred sites. Attacks? Chen's head tilted, a picture of innocent concern. We have launched no attacks, War Leader. We are in a period of mourning and preparation. Perhaps your people are experiencing technical difficulties. The galaxy is old. Systems fail. Her placid denial was more infuriating than any boast. He cut the channel, a primal rage battling a deeper, chilling fear. They were fighting an enemy who denied the battle itself. The second phase of Jericho was more direct, yet equally alien in its execution. The Vorax military's strength lay in its officer corps, a hereditary caste trained from birth in the Arena Mentis, the most prestigious war college in the Empire, located on the tidally locked world of Ignis. Here, cadets underwent trials of pain, vacuum, and tactical immersion, bonding into the unbreakable cohorts that commanded their fleets. A human infiltration cell, disguised as a Ligarian mineral survey team, a species the Vorax considered harmless fungoids, had been on Ignis for 6 months. Their mission was not sabotage, but substitution. Over weeks, they had painstakingly replaced the nutrient slurry in the cadets' endurance training sustenance packs with a neuroactive compound of human design. It was not a poison. It was a teacher. During the grand final exercise, a simulated fleet battle in the college's massive holographic arena, the compound reached synaptic saturation. 2,000 of the Vorax Empire's brightest future commanders simultaneously experienced the same vivid, overpowering hallucination. They were not on the bridge of a mighty warship, but in a small, white room on New Geneva. They were not warriors, but human children, and they looked up to see the green bloom of plasma filling their world, feeling not warriors' resolve, but the pure, animal terror of a child facing absolute, meaningless annihilation. The simulation dissolved into chaos. Cadets screamed, clawed at their own faces, or sat catatonic. The bonds of cohort, the warrior's pride, were shattered not by violence, but by empathetic annihilation. The trauma was psychological, permanent, and utterly contaminating. The survivors would never command effectively. They would flinch at the sight of a targeting scanner, their minds forever echoing with a scream that was not their own. The Vorax had killed human children by accident. Humanity had killed the Vorax future by design. When Draxor received the report from Ignis, he finally understood the shape of the conflict. This was not war. This was deconstruction. The humans were not attacking his army. They were dissolving the cultural and psychological substrate that created his army. They were making the Vorax forget how to be Vorax. He summoned his remaining fleet commanders. "The humans are witches," he stated, the ancient, half-forgotten word feeling apt. "They fight with ghosts and nightmares. We must respond with overwhelming, conventional force. We must find their hidden fleet and crush it in void combat, where honor and firepower still rule." "And if they refuse to meet us in open battle?" asked one commander. "Then we go to their home," Draxor said, his voice grim. "We bring our guns to orbit around their blue world. We remind them that nightmares cannot stop a planet cracker. We will force them to stand and fight like warriors, or watch their own cradle burn." It was a brutal, simple plan. The Vorax way. It was also exactly what Project Jericho's strategists had predicted. As the Vorax Grand Armada, a breathtaking array of 3,000 warships, the assembled might of 2 millennia of conquest, began to gather, Admiral Rodriguez gave the order for Phase 3. The memorial was ready. It did not arrive as a fleet. It arrived as a message, delivered not to Draxor, but to every civilian comm unit, public screen, and starship nav system in Vorax space simultaneously. There was no hack, no breach. The signal simply manifested, bypassing all security as if those securities had never existed. The message showed Ambassador Chen, standing before a plain, black wall. Her face was serene. "People of the Vorax Empire," she said, her voice translated perfectly into their guttural tongue. "You took from us 847 futures. You did not mean to. But meaning is a luxury for the living. The dead care only for the fact." The image shifted. It showed the glassed crater of New Geneva. Then, with chilling synchronicity, it split into a mosaic. On one side, the crater. On the other, a rapid-fire montage. The silent archives of Cartan. The scrambled genetics lab on Vex. The shattered cadets on Ignis, weeping. The slide of names at the monument. "We are building our memorial," Chen's voice continued over the visuals. "You are watching its foundation being laid. This is not retaliation. Retaliation implies a balance, an equivalence. This is education." The screen showed the might of the gathering Vorax Armada, their brilliant engine flares like a false dawn. "You believe strength is this." The image zoomed in on the gargantuan flagship, the World Breaker. "You believe war is fought here." It showed ranks of warriors, claws raised. The image dissolved, replaced by the simple, black wall from the beginning. One name appeared, etched in light. Lena Eris, age 6. Then another, Kaito Chen, age 3. Another, Maya Vladislav, age 14. The names began to scroll, faster and faster, all 847 of them, a waterfall of stolen light. "True strength," Chen's whispered voice concluded, as the names blurred into a solid stream of white, "is the will to become the absolute, final answer to a question no one should ever have to ask again. What happens if you hurt our children?" The message ended. In its place, for exactly 847 seconds, was only a silent black screen. Then normal transmissions resumed. The effect on Vorax society was instantaneous and catastrophic. The civilian populace, already uneasy about the accident, saw not a mighty empire responding to a threat, but a brutal, clumsy giant being surgically dismantled by an unseen scalpel. The attacks hadn't been on military targets, but on their identity, The message framed their own armada, not as defenders, but as the provocation that had doomed their soul. A psychic shockwave of doubt and fear rippled through their civilization. War leader Draxur stared at the blank screen in his chamber, the names of the human children burning behind his eyes. He finally understood Ambassador Chen's promise. The memorial wasn't a thing, it was a process, and the process was the systematic annihilation of the Vorax as a galactic power. They were not being defeated, they were being unmade. With a roar of defiance that was also a dirge, he gave the order. The Grand Armada would not wait. It would leap towards the human home system, Sol. It would force the final, honest battle. It would win, or it would die with honor in the fire. As the Vorax fleet spun up their warp drives, the human Ghost Fleet, its preparation complete, finally moved from the shadows. It did not set a course to intercept the Armada. Instead, it plotted a course for the heart of the Vorax Empire itself. Admiral Rodriguez's order was simple. Let them come, and while they are looking at Earth, show them what we do to the homes of child killers. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any in galactic history. One side sought a warrior's battle, the other was preparing an executioner's judgment. The Vorax Grand Armada was a spectacle to shatter solar systems. 3,000 warships, their hulls the color of dried blood and burnished bone, tore through the fabric of space. Their formation was a perfect, intimidating wedge, the Talons of Corax. At its tip was war leader Draxur's flagship, the World Breaker, a vessel so large its shadow could eclipse a moon. They moved with a dreadful, beautiful synchronicity, the product of 1,000 years of unchallenged military tradition. Their destination? The Sol System. Their objective? To bring humanity to its knees in the kind of decisive, honorable battle that was their scripture. They would orbit Earth, issue an ultimatum, and either accept surrender or rain fire until the humans remembered their place. It was simple, clean, and utterly wrong. Aboard the World Breaker, Draxur watched the starfields bleed into the blue-shifted tunnel of warp. His command deck hummed with disciplined readiness, but beneath the surface, a new sickly doubt festered. The human message, the scrolling names, the calm, surgical voice of Chen had infected his warriors. They did not speak of it, but he saw it in the too straight set of their shoulders, the absence of the usual pre-battle rituals. They were flying toward a fight, but the enemy had already struck blows they could not parry, against targets they could not defend. Warp exit in 10 cycles, War Leader, his navigator intoned. Stand by all battle groups, Draxur commanded, his voice filling the deck. Emergence pattern Sigma. I want the human homeworld on every screen before their defensive platforms finish a single targeting cycle. As the Armada hurtled toward its destiny, the Ghost Fleet of humanity executed its final jump. It did not emerge at the edge of the Sol System. It materialized in the densely populated core of the Vorax Empire, around the sacred throne world of Vorax Prime itself. There was no fanfare, no challenge. One moment, empty space glittered with the light of the home star. The next, it was occluded by angular, matte black shapes. The Acheron, the Mnemosyne, the Silent Hand and her sisters. They were outnumbered 100 to 1 by the system's planetary defense fleet, but they did not assume a battle formation. They assumed a grid. Admiral Rodriguez's face appeared on the main screen of every civilian and military channel in the Vorax Empire simultaneously. He wore no ceremonial uniform, only a simple black jumpsuit. His expression was that of a coroner, "People of Vorax Prime," he said, his tone devoid of malice, devoid of anything but finality. "Your military has chosen to visit our home. In keeping with the principle of a memorial, a place for remembrance, we have come to yours. Do not interfere. This broadcast is not a negotiation, it is a eulogy." Before the Vorax defense commander could even issue a frantic order, the human ships acted. They did not fire upon the orbital platforms or the patrolling cruisers. Instead, from the bellies of the Nemesis-class vessels, 1,000 small crystalline probes shot forth. They ignored weapons fire, their paths erratic and unpredictable, weaving through defensive grids like smoke through a screen door. Each probe homed in on a specific, non-military target, the great orbital spire that held the Hall of Ancestral Voices, where every Vorax birth and death song was recorded. The public data arcs containing the complete cultural and historical records of the species. The massive geosculptures on the planet's surface that depicted their mythical genesis. Parentheses. The probes did not explode. They attached themselves and emitted a complex, cascading energy frequency. Where this frequency touched, it didn't destroy, it erased. The spire did not shatter. The quantum storage at its core underwent total data decay, becoming a perfect, empty void. The data arcs became inert slabs. The geosculptures remained, but the precise mineral compositions that gave them their vibrant, symbolic colors were transmuted into uniform, dead gray. It was history being bleached from the universe. Down on the planet, in the Grand Conclave, where the civilian elders governed, the High Speaker watched the feed from orbit, his claws trembling. The defense fleet was frantically trying to shoot down the nimble probes, but they were like trying to swat photons. "They are deleting us," he whispered. The concept so alien, it bordered on the blasphemous. A new specific transmission pierced the chaos, directed to the World Breaker, still in warp. It was Ambassador Chen. "War Leader Draxor, you are currently 4.2 light-years from Earth. We are currently in orbit around Vorax Prime. You seek a battle of fleet against fleet. We are engaged in a battle of existence against oblivion. You can continue to soul. You may even glass our cities. But by the time you arrive, there will be nothing of Vorax left for you to return to. No history, no songs, no identity. Just gray matter. Your choice." In the warp tunnel, Draxor received the live feed from his homeworld. He saw the bleaching of the spire. He saw the panic in the streets. He heard the silent scream of a culture being unmade. His strategic mind, trained for fleet maneuvers and planetary assaults, short-circuited. This was not a move on the board. This was setting the board on fire. "Call the fleet," he roared, spittle flying. "Emergency warp reversal. All ships back to Vorax Prime. War Leader, a full reversal from this velocity will cause catastrophic engine stress. We could lose a third of the Armada." His second screamed. "We have already lost," Draxor bellowed, the truth tearing from him. "They are not fighting our ships. They are murdering our ghosts." The order went out. The greatest armada in Vorax history, poised to strike a decisive blow, wrenched itself out of warp in a storm of tortured physics and spatial recoil. Hundreds of ships tore themselves apart in the violent reversal. The majestic formation became a cloud of debris and crippled hulls. The World Breaker herself emerged, scorched and venting atmosphere, back at the Empire's fringe. But it was too late. The human ghost fleet had completed its work. With the same eerie silence with which it arrived, it folded space and vanished, leaving behind a planet that was physically intact, but spiritually eviscerated. The Grand Armada limped home, not to a victory parade, but to a planet in mourning for its own soul. Draxor stepped onto the scorched soil of the capital, the smell of ozone and fear replacing the familiar scent of sacred oils. He walked through streets where citizens looked past him, their eyes hollow, as if searching for a reflection that was no longer there. The war was over. There had been no grand battle. The Vorax Empire had been defeated, not by a superior force, but by a superior understanding of what force truly meant. 1 week later, the Galactic Council reconvened. The atmosphere was not one of debate, but of trauma. The representatives of 200 species sat in a silence so heavy the crystal dome seemed to groan under its weight. The Vorax delegation's seats were empty, a void more eloquent than any speech. Ambassador Sarah Chen entered alone. She did not walk to the speaker's platform. She stood in the center of the floor, a small dark figure in the vastness. "The memorial," she said, her voice clear, "is complete." No one spoke. The Vorax Empire, as a functional galactic power, has ceased to be. Its military is broken, its cultural continuity severed, its will to threaten others extinguished. The 847 children of New Geneva have been answered. High Counselor Thexar of the Zepyrian hegemony, a species of refined philosophers, found his voice. "What you have done, it is an abomination. It is a crime against civilization itself." Chen turned slowly to face him. "Is it? We destroyed buildings and data. We killed no civilians. We engaged in minimal ship-to-ship combat. By the letter of the Galactic Charter of War, our collateral damage was near zero. The Vorax, in their single accident, killed hundreds of non-combatants. By your own laws, who is the greater abomination?" The logic was a trap, cold and inescapable. They had used the galaxy's own civilized rules as a weapon, and then stepped outside those rules to deliver a punishment the rules were never designed to conceive. Elder Kais of the Krex rumbled, "You have not just defeated an enemy. You have invented a new kind of fear." "Good," Chen replied, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "Let it be instructive. The era of civilized war, where you trade star systems and pay reparations over the bodies of children, is over. Today, we establish a new precedent. The Chen Doctrine." A holographic document shimmered into existence above her, its text stark. Article 1. The Inviolable Sanctum. An attack resulting in the death of any human child, regardless of intent, will be considered a species-level existential threat. Article 2. The Guardian's Vow. Humanity will extend its protective umbrella to any species that formally requests it, under a mutual pact of non-aggression and cultural sovereignty. Article 3. The Calculus of Response. The response to a violation of Article 1 will not be proportional. It will be total. It will target not just military capacity, but the historical, cultural, and psychological continuity of the offending species until the threat is permanently neutralized. Article 4. The Silent Option. Species may choose to remain outside this pact. They will forfeit any claim to human protection or intervention, and will be regarded as potential unknowns in our strategic calculus. The chamber erupted. Shouts of outrage, clicks of terror, hums of frantic calculation. It was not a treaty. It was an ultimatum written on the grave of an empire. It was the memorial made law. Speaker Valdris, his light flickering weakly, tried to assert order. "Ambassador Chen, the Council cannot be compelled to." You misunderstand, speaker, Chen interrupted, her voice softening for the first time. This is not a proposal for the Council to ratify. This is a statement of human policy, delivered for your information. The Council may continue its debates, its arbitrations, its elegant delays. We will not interfere. But from this moment forward, every political calculation in this room must include a new, absolute variable: the certain and utter annihilation that awaits anyone who harms a human child. The Vorax are the demonstration. Let the demonstration suffice. She began to walk out. As she reached the great arched doorway, she paused and looked back, not at the dignitaries, but at the blank wall behind the speaker's dame. We did not want to be your rulers. We did not want to be your warriors. We wanted to be your neighbors. You showed us that in this galaxy, neighbors have to choose. Be a shield or be a sword. We have chosen to be both. The shield for those who stand with us. The sword for those who stand against. The choice of which we are is now yours. Her exit was not followed by noise, but by a deeper, more profound silence. The representatives looked at each other, not with the camaraderie of allies, but with the wary assessment of survivors in a new, more dangerous ecosystem. The human-shaped vacuum in the center of the room was more powerful than any presence. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed, not with a bang, but with a shuddering reorientation. Pirate cartels that had preyed on shipping lanes mysteriously found their hidden bases exposed. Their leaders vanished. Border skirmishes between long-feuding species were suddenly, awkwardly resolved under the discreet but unignorable shadow of unspoken Article 1. An entire industry of galactic risk assessment was born overnight, with human-child proximity becoming the single highest-rated liability factor. One by one, the petitions began to arrive at Earth's embassy. First came the smaller, vulnerable species, the pacifist aquatics, the hive-minded Zek, then the mercantile coalitions, each signing the Guardian's vow, accepting the human umbrella. Their worlds were quietly added to a defensive network, their children, by unspoken universal decree, treated with a newfound, almost reverential care by all. The Vorax remnant, scattered and broken, became a living museum exhibit of the new order. They were not persecuted, they were simply ignored, a cautionary tale wandering the galaxy, their once proud crests now marks of a forgotten danger. On a lush, ringed world, under human protection, a Krex youngling tugged on its parent's thick carapace. Elder parent, why do the humans have no great statues in their sector of the station? The elder looked down at the curious child, then out of viewport at the sleek, unadorned human frigate, docked nearby, its lines clean and lethal. They do not build statues, little one, the elder rumbled softly. They build certainties. The Vorax are their monument. Your safety is their inscription. It is a different kind of art, a terrible and beautiful and absolutely necessary art. Back on Earth, in a quiet garden overlooking the Pacific, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before a simple black marble wall. Not 847 names, but one. Lena Eris, age 6. A single candle flickered in a glass globe. A young aide approached. Madam Ambassador, the Crystalline Union has just signed the vow. That makes the 173rd species under the Guardian's umbrella. Chen didn't turn. Good. Do you think they truly understand? What we did, what we are? Chen finally looked at the aide, her eyes reflecting the flame. They understand the only thing that matters in the end. They understand the price. And they have decided their children are worth it. So are ours. She turned back to the wall, to the single name, representing all the lost. The memorial was not in the stars, or in the laws, or in the fear they had sown. It was in the profound, purchased silence, where a child could laugh without the shadow of a green star falling from the sky. It was the most expensive piece in history. And as the galaxy, slowly, hesitantly, learned to breathe within its brutal, guaranteed safety, even the oldest among them had to admit, it was peace, nonetheless.